What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley, that's Scott Savage, and you can join us at InsideTheGame.ca, our YouTube channel, Inside the Game Official, podcast services, thanks to our friends at Fired Up Network, and all those beautiful television streaming platforms around the globe. I'm talking about Roku, Amazon Prime, Samsung Plus, Jinx Esports TV, ESTV, and a whole lot more. Scott, we're everywhere, dude. Just that simple. You can't miss us. So if you haven't seen us, yo, check it out. Don't forget about our weekly show too, Inside the Game, where we review everything around the world. Some of the biggest titles lately, Scott. We've been on fire, but we're on fire today because there's a lot to talk about. What do we have?
We have Criterion joining EA Entertainment in a little bit of a shakeup. Unfortunately, a shakeup is another term you could use for Embracer Group layoffs.
Yep.
Much more negatively. There's also Glen Schofield leaving striking distance, and that's an interesting situation as well.
Certainly is. But let's jump in. The team behind Need for Speed, joining. You go to Battlefield. Let's see how that goes. Scott, this is an interesting one coming for topic number one. Criterion joins EA Entertainment to focus on Battlefield development.
Getting some new blood in the kitchen.
Dude, we're off to the races. Let's get into it. Tom Ivan over at VGC. EA restructured its studios into two organizations this summer, and Criterion has switched from EA Sports to EA Entertainment. It will also continue to work on the Need for Speed series, according to Respawn co-founder Vince Zampella, who now leads the EA studios responsible for Apex Legends, its Star Wars, and Battlefield games. Quote, "As we've said before, we're all in on Battlefield," he said in a blog post. Today, Criterion is added to our world-class Battlefield studios dedicated to ushering in a new era for the franchise. The majority of the team will be working alongside DICE, Ripple Effect, and Ridgeline that are led by Brian Bede, GM of Battlefield. Criterion's experience in Battlefield, our technology and building engaging experience will have an immediate positive impact as we continue to work on Battlefield 2042 and as we continue pre-production on a connected Battlefield universe. EA announced in February 2020 that it had handed Need for Speed development duties back to Criterion as it plans to restructure Ghost Games, which made the last four entries in the racing series. Best known for the Burnout series. Oh, dude, what a series, Scott. What a series.
Oh, I haven't thought about Burnout in a very long time.
Criterion also developed two previous Need for Speed titles, 2010's Hot Pursuit and 2012's Most Wanted. It contributed to 2013's Need for Speed Rivals 2 and later to DICE's Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 5. In most recent games was December's 2022 Need for Speed Unbound, which was delayed after Criterion was moved into support role on Battlefield 2042. Quote, "Work will also continue on what's next for Need for Speed," end quote, Zampella said. Quote, "Many of you might be familiar with my history in games, having worked with extremely talented teams on Apex Legends, Titanfall, and Star Wars Jedi here at Electronic Arts. But you might not know I have a passion for cars, which also makes Criterion a perfect match for me to explore another genre in gaming that I love. I'm really looking forward to working with the core group as we shape what's next for the franchise," end quote. Scott, Criterion, helping out DICE and the team over there working on Battlefield. We're going to get some Battlefield races going on. We're going to get like a spin-off. What are we doing here?
Hey, I would not be opposed to that, actually. Battlefield Hardline had some pretty interesting car play to it, so that's something that is not entirely impossible. But I think this is interesting because Battlefield 5 was quite different than some of the other Battlefield games. So this might be an attempt to kind of rein in some of what made that game interesting and pivot away from kind of the shortcomings of Battlefield 2042.
Right.
It's interesting to see more diversity of thought being brought to the table.
No, it's definitely unique to see Criterion coming in. Yeah, they did help with 2042, but what's next? As they called it, the Battlefield universe, Scott. Like, what does that mean? What is that? Do I have any speculations on what that could be?
I'm not entirely sure. I kind of view it in the same way that I view the Call of Duty kind of collected ecosphere, the way
Sure.
you can load in from one game to the other, a common launcher. So I'm not sure what else it means yet at this point, other than future Battlefield games rather will be offered through the same portal.
Are we getting back into some of the more story-driven Battlefield titles? Is that an opportunity that's coming along? Yeah, right?
I certainly hope so. Yeah, Battlefield 2042 having absolutely no story was, well, actually it's offered through web video kind of format, but it's not the same.
No, we definitely need like a point A to point B story-driven moments for Battlefield that we've gone away with 2042. Whenever that can come back, will Criterion help kind of shape that? In this Battlefield universe, I'm thinking multiple titles, right? Just kind of like how you said Call of Duty has, we have Treyarch and we have the other teams all working on Sledgehammer, and they're all kind of doing their own little thing. And then you get Modern Warfare, you get the Black Ops franchise. Was Criterion there to help boost that idea for Battlefield? We're going to have other teams kind of splitting up and having multiple Battlefields. Like, we're going to get them on a regular basis. All of a sudden now you get one team working on it, and then next year you get the other team's game. Do we get into here's a multiplayer version and then here's a single player version, right? Do they divide divide and conquer?
I think that would work out very well, actually. Bad Company needs to come back in a big way, and it's been a very, very long time.
It has been quite some time, right? But Criterion, again, most notably known for the racing genre and their Need for Speed series coming back. Need for Speed Unbound being the latest. Need for Speed is not done. I think that's the other thing to take note of. Criterion shift doesn't mean the end of Need for Speed. So that's exciting. And then, yeah, Vince Zampella, I think, has a game plan, and I'd love to be on a fly in the wall for some of those meetings to see what that looks like.
That's for sure.
Scott, the fiasco with Embracer Group continues as Embracer Group layoffs continue, this time with Crystal Dynamics being hit. Oh man, we wondered when this was going to happen, right? This is David Carcassell over at PSU. Crystal Dynamics is the latest to be hit by layoffs occurring across 8 Embracer Group. A massive undertaking apparently is going on right now with the missing investment from the Saudi games, right? That was over in Saudi Arabia where they're supposed to get this investment. Didn't happen, and now we're starting to see the ramifications of them not being able to get that investment. But the other side of it too, Scott, as we keep going back to it, is they went too hard too fast and wasn't able to kind of carry along everybody that they should. And there's a couple things we're going to get into here. Embracer Group stepped onto the games industry stage and began gobbling up studios like they were sweets, and something really, and seemingly put far too many eggs in the basket of its deal with the Sabi Group Sabi Games going through. When it didn't, that meant Embracer went into a restructuring mode, as they called it, Scott, and told players to expect the closure of studios and layoffs, which we've already seen. What makes the Crystal Dynamics layoff concerning is how Embracer Group first stated that its restructuring wouldn't impact the new Tomb Raider game currently being worked on at Crystal Dynamics. Clearly, that was wrong. It was a lie, dude. For now, it looks like these layoffs have been focused on Crystal Dynamics marketing teams, and while that might not slow down, say, work being done on a level design, it's difficult to imagine it not having an effect on the game in the long run. Hopefully, those laid off are able to land on their feet as soon as possible, and these layoffs see sooner than later, as Embracer Group it's just a fiasco. Now, I want to get into something else too, real quick. Steven Nattilio posted over on Twitter. Crystal Dynamics layoffs. Layoffs of Beamdog. Gearbox publishing cuts. Campfire Cabal shut down. Volition closure. Saber's Evil Dead game has been frozen. All ahead of Embracer's annual meeting today. Deep cuts were expected by October 1st, but restructuring now set to go through March. Interesting little take from Steven. Obviously, he's got some insight, knowledge, and information over there. He's always got his finger on the pulse. But dude, Embracer Group just seems to be falling apart, aren't they?
Yeah, it seems, from the outside looking in at least, it seems like a rather irresponsible way of handling business. Of course, everybody's going to move on with tentative deals. I think this was to the tune of $1 billion. It's an obscene amount of money, but then to kind of expand faster than that can sustain is the part that seems responsible.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if this is going to be resulting in anything good for the industry at large. I'm
We
not sure if there's much you can do to prevent it. The companies buying up companies is certainly a hot topic of debate nowadays, but this is an example of why it does not work out well.
No, absolutely. When we saw Embracer Group buying everybody up, they're like, what are they doing here? They've got all these IPs that they've been sitting on forever. They're not doing anything with them. And then now they're just closing studios left, right, and center. And this is disheartening. What comes next, right? Crystal Dynamics working on Perfect Dark game right now too. Keep that in the back of your mind, right? The Perfect Dark game is in production with Xbox, and Crystal Dynamics are involved in doing that. What's that mean for that game now? You're getting in there. They're working on a Tomb Raider game. Yeah, it was the marketing department for now, right? This is what I'm going. Okay, for now. Wait until we hear about more layoffs. The layoffs aren't done. So if you're right now under the name Embracer Group, I think you're a little nervous, maybe looking elsewhere at this point, right? You got to be, how do I make sure that I'm still around and viable and being able to survive with my family and stuff like that, right? Like, priority number one is taking care of yourself and your family. If you're under Embracer Group, I'm looking for another job, man.
Yeah, these buyouts were not positive, but ironically, I think it's going to be buyouts that save the situation. How can somebody grab these companies, turn them back around, and put the feet back on the road?
Dude, is this okay? So, does PlayStation sweep in? Right? We'll buy so and so. We'll buy this. Volition, dude, gone, just gone. Like, I know Saints Row, the latest game, didn't hit well, but at the same time, do you ever think after 30 years the company would just be dissolved like that? Just under the Embracer Group going, we're gonna close the studio down.
Oh, AAA budgets. There's something to be said about that too. These ginormous game companies putting out ginormously expensive games, and when they don't sell well, it puts the whole company at risk.
Yeah, it certainly does.
It's a dangerous precedent that's being set.
When games take longer now to make than ever, right? The investment is high, and if you don't have the investors there to get you started, get your foot in the door, and keep you going long run until you can sell the game, well, and then you get a game like the Saints Row that doesn't sell, that hurts, and then the investors start to bounce out. That's what we saw with Savvy Games. Is they were like, no, we're not coming in here to help because your games just aren't selling. I think that was the other side of it too. I thought who Embracer Group was buying was a weird twist, right? But again, Gearbox, high-end studio, Crystal Dynamics, well known within the industry as well, very talented people. Volition, very talented team there as well. Just again, just the game didn't, man. But I don't. When we saw the announcement of Saints Row, were you more shocked that they were making another one, Scott, or were you excited?
Yeah, I was more shocked than anything.
Yeah, me too.
Only being a fan of 1 and 2, I wasn't going to be the most excited person, but just seeing the name come back around, I went, is this really time for it? And evidently it was not.
No, apparently not, right? And that's, I think Embracer Group needs to line themselves up smartly with what games are hitting and think long term, because we're not getting a AAA game in 2 years, right? It's going to take them 5, 6, 7 years, depending on the budget, depending on the scope of the game. We saw layoffs over at Ascendant Studios, a studio out of EA Originals, right? Coming in there with Immortals of Avium getting cut because a AAA budget just didn't land on its feet. Instead, it landed in the middle, which is unfortunate. You and I really enjoyed that game. We thought it was great. We're hoping for a sequel. And now that studio's gone. Like, dude, everybody just seems to be dropping. But Embracer Group just came in and went, we'll take that company, we'll take this company. We're going to take that company, we're going to take this company. And now they're sitting on this sinking ship of all these studios that aren't producing games that are making a boatload of money, like, say, a Starfield or a Spider-Man title. And now they're just going down. Do you think Tomb Raider could be the saving grace?
Oh, for Crystal Dynamics, I think that's possible. We get Tomb Raider moving again, and that's one of the topics, one of the big names that will sell. Kind of like Ubisoft buckling down, pulling up some safe brands just to make it through this. We're seeing a whole lot of turbulence across the entire world economy right now, and I think that's going to result in a lot fewer games coming out. There just isn't enough sustainability in any market right now. We've had an insane release schedule for this season. I think that's just not sustainable.
No, it's not normal, right? It really isn't the norm when it comes to the release schedule, the amount of games that are coming out on a regular basis. What happened is, well, we're still kind of coming off the wake of the pandemic, and everybody's now like, okay, we're ready to go. The pandemic slowed everything down, delayed a bunch of stuff, and then they're now at the point where they have to get the game out. And that's why we're seeing boom, 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 so many major titles releasing this year. And it's been an incredible season, man, of gaming. Like, we are not short on things to play, and not short on great things to play, I think is the other thing, right? The competition out there is fierce. And I don't think Tomb Raider is a saving grace. I really don't.
No?
I think it is a beloved franchise, but I think it's not held as the high pedigree when you're talking about other games. Like, even when you compare it to Uncharted, man, I think Uncharted resonates more, right? The Last of Us, Spider-Man. Now we get into Starfield, Halo, right? A beloved franchise. Didn't really land on its feet either. And I think Tomb Raider is going to fall in probably around the 8s. I'm hoping for a 10.
Okay.
Dude, I would love a 10, right? A Tomb Raider 10 would be fantastic. And I'm down to play it because I love the Tomb Raider. Dude, I grew up on the Tomb Raider. Way back when it launched, I was there on day one. Now, after all these years, I'm excited to see what they can do next. Can they bring it around to bring it to the status that Lara Croft used to be, right? Like, that was a household name at one point, and it seems to be tapered off over the years and almost somewhat forgotten.
I think it has been forgotten largely. I think it's my generation at last might be the last ones to really remember it. It's hard to sell to the youngest generation now, and I think they're driving most of the sales.
Yes, absolutely. Scott, following suit, dude, we got more bad news for today's show. Glen Schofield is leaving striking distance after the Callisto Protocol misfired. Again, right? Another AAA title. Not hitting so well. Here we go. Tom Ivan over VGC. A Crafton representative told Bloomberg Schofield has, quote, decided to pursue new opportunities, end quote. And the striking distance chief operating officer and chief financial officer are also leaving the company voluntarily. Man, not a good sign. Former Sledgehammer Games and Visceral Games general manager Schofield, who is best known for his co-creator as Dead Space, founded Striking Distance Studio in 2019 with the goal of crafting an original narrative experience in the PUBG universe, which was the most bizarre thing, Scott, when they said it was connected to PUBG. Right?
That was one of the details that got cut very early on.
Yeah. Or like, no, actually it's not related to PUBG. You think? Like, it did not make any sense. The Callisto Protocol was its own game. Straight up. Had nothing to do with the world of PUBG. So why they even phrased it that way when they first announced it, everybody saw the trailer and go, how is this connected? And it clearly wasn't.
Going through it, I could not find any sort of mention of PUBG at all in Callisto Protocol. I didn't search every corner, but I do not think they were related.
And no, I think they quickly decided to remove anything that they had in there. Here's a Car 98. Let's get rid of that gun. The project evolved over time into a sci-fi survival horror game that was no longer tied to the PUBG franchise. The Callisto Protocol received mixed reviews when it was released last December, a month before EA released a critically acclaimed Dead Space remake. Timing, Scott. We talk about timing a lot on the show, especially as of late. Dude, September, hot month. If you drop a game in September, either A, you're going to do banger numbers, or B, you're going to tank because you are in some hot water with loads of competition, right? There's so many games out this month.
There's just not enough space for all of them. Literally, September has been insane.
Absolutely.
The same thing happens here. When you launch Callisto Protocol, a lot of people looked at it and went, this is Dead Space. And getting into it, it was not Dead Space, and unfortunately, it was not. But releasing that just so close to the Dead Space remake is foolish, to say the least.
Absolutely. In January, an analyst claimed Crafton had targeted 5 million sales for the Callisto Protocol, but following a slow start, it could struggle to reach 2 million by the end of 2023. Bloomberg reports that Striking Distance had laid off over 30 members of staff in the recent months, and that it now had a headcount of around 90 employees, according to the website. Scott, what are they working on next?
Yeah, I have to wonder. I don't suspect it'll be a Callisto Protocol 2, based on this reaction to it. But what else could come from the developers, same world of PUBG, if they are going to fit something into that same universe? Is this where we get a racing spinoff?
No, I don't think so. I wonder if they do key up a story-driven plot of some sort for PUBG. Now, granted, PUBG now has been, it's shot to the top, right? The #1 battle royale game, then was quickly overthrown by Fortnite, and then Apex is around, and then we get Warzone with Call of Duty. Everybody wanted a piece of the whole battle royale scene, and it's worked for a lot of them, struggled for a lot of others, and then PUBG's just kind of like floating through. PUBG Mobile, dude, is hot. It is still hot. It is still nailing numbers, I believe, and doing really, really well. I see updates all the time, and I also see updates all the time for PUBG, which is still my go-to battle royale game. I saw update 25.2 or something that like the other day. It was nuts. I'm like, all right, cool.
It's been going for a very long time now. Think about that.
It has, dude. Here's my question: where's PUBG 2? That's what they like. Seriously, you jump into PUBG right now on PS5, Xbox Series X. I'm like, yo, this doesn't cut it. Like,
it looks old now.
It does. It looks dated, right? It looks very, very dated. It runs well for the most part, but again, you're up to some high-level competition when you get Apex and Warzone coming at you. Fortnite has its own thing, right? And clearly he's doing just fine. But I think PUBG now needs to almost like a refresh. They needed 2. I think they need a sequel to see what they can do. Is Striking Distance the studio to help kind of lead that charge? I don't know, coming off of a survival horror experience, which again met with mediocre reviews. In a time where things need to be hitting at the top at such a high level to bring in millions and millions of dollars, Scott, you can't have a 7 if you're a AAA studio.
I don't think PUBG is going to be able to reinvent itself, but I'm hoping whatever comes after that has more substance to stand around on its own. Redefine a genre again, but what does that look like?
There's definitely a lot of questions, right? What does Striking Distance look like? What does the PUBG Corp look like? What are their plans here? A headcount of 90 people isn't much when it comes to a studio, right? So, I don't know, time will tell. But yeah, I got fingers crossed we get some good news here soon, because lately we've been on a closing streak, man, and it hurts.
Yeah.
Scott, as we said, more games just keep coming. We got a few for everybody today. What do we have?
We have Abreast, Built to Destroy, that's on PC. Super Adventure Hand on PC and Switch. Hellsweeper is on the MetaQuest and PSVR 2 systems. Days of Doom is on PC, PS4, 5, Xbox One, X, Switch, and the Atari VCS. That's a name you don't see often nowadays. Lastly, we have Payday 3, and that's on PC, PS4, 5, Xbox One, and X.
Dude, I can't wait to jump into Payday 3. It's gonna be a blast. And that'll wrap up today's show, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with us. This has been ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news each and every day. We'll be back again tomorrow. I'm Drew, that's Scott.
And we'll see you inside the game.